So first, I want you to each individually introduce yourself, your name, and the organization that you're representing today. So we'll start with.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Ruben Sanchez. I am the Vice President of the Miami chapter of the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance. Thank you for having us.
Beautiful. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Corriolan. I'm here on behalf of NAREP South Florida, and I am the local president.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bowie. I am the chapter president for the Greater Miami chapter of ARIA, which is the Asian Real Estate Association of America.
Hello, I'm Joanna Jimine. I'm here as a board member from NARA, which is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals.
Great. Thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate it. So let's start with Ruben. Tell us a little bit about your organization, its founding, what they're about, educate us.
So we're a new organization. Our organization has been in operation nationally for a little less than a year. We're sort of a spin-off of a previous organization that I cannot talk about. And we're very, very excited because the participation and the welcoming that we received from the other real estate professionals has been very welcoming. And at this moment in time, we're actually in the process of expanding internationally. We're doing a chapter in Canada, and we're looking into Mexico and South America as well.
NAREP stands for National Association of Real Estate Brokers. We were founded in 1947. We happen to be an organization that was founded because minorities, so when you talk about Hispanics, Latins, or even Blacks, were not allowed to be realtors back in the 1940s. So the organization was founded here actually in Florida. And it's basically about creating democracy in housing, affordable housing opportunities, and ensuring that everyone's able to afford a home. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So similarly, same thing with ARIA, actually, we were not allowed to be real estate professionals. So our founder, Alan Okamoto, and John Wong formed ARIA. And also, as first Asian American immigrants, it was very difficult, right? Because of the cultural differences, the language barriers, and of course discrimination. And back then, we did have laws against certain ethnic groups. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act. There was, Japanese internment camps. So this is something that, later, actually our founder, Alan Okamoto, his grandfather was a real estate professional, and he was denied membership of the association. Yes. And then later, his grandson, Alan, he became the president in in the 1990s. So in 1955, he was denied. In 1990s, he was the president. So it was kind of a pretty cool story there. So that's how we were founded.
Nice.
Talk about turnaround.
Yes.
So the NAREP organization is fairly new. It was created by two individuals in California in 2000. So this is kind of like pre-internet, internet's just started. So the mission was to help increase Hispanic household home ownership. And they created a website that said Real Estate Spanish, and it would helps many families to know what the steps are, the process. And it was around the same time that the Hispanics were the largest minority group of home ownership. So now it's a national organization. They have millions of dollars that throughout many the banks and the title companies to continue helping increasing the Hispanic households to become homeowners.
Love it. So for those who don't know, April is National Fair Housing Month, which is why I thought it was very important to have someone from each of these organizations speak today. So with that being said, in 2021, a lot of people will actually say that we have laws now, we have inclusion now, everything is great, right? So why is your organization still necessary today? Why should it still be relevant? I would love to hear what you have to say.
So it's absolutely necessary because, in the past, as I was referencing, we did have laws against certain ethnicities. And now, more than ever, especially with hate crimes, and especially in the Asian community, there's still people that are afraid to step out of their house because of these crimes. Our elder community, it's really, I don't even know, but it's more prevalent today, and it's crazy that it's happening right now. So of course, we don't want to erase our history. We don't want to go backwards. We want to move forward. We want to advocate on behalf of our community for these things. So that's why it's important that all these organizations still exist. Thing right now.
Yeah,
Especially right now.
especially right now. Yeah. So Jeff, why is NARAD still necessary right now in 2020?
And that's definitely a great question, because you can definitely say, yeah, everything is fair, quote unquote, right? But not necessarily. One thing that happens is that due to opportunities that are given to others that are not given to our organization, it says that we need to stand out, and we basically need to say, hey, what happens to us? A lot of times we are the first people to go to college. Sometimes we're the first people to even graduate from high school. So sometimes, most of the time, we're the first people to even own a home. But what happens is, if we don't see our elders doing it, we don't know any better. We don't know, instead of buying a fancy car, we need to start saving stocks and stuff like that. We're not educated by that. So the organization continues to be essential because of things like this and educating. And one thing that we have is we have what's called our women's chapter. And what women's chapter basically focuses on is that people that have worked their lives, now it's time for retirement. What do I do? How do I prepare for retirement? Understanding my paycheck, understanding, hey, I need to get a will, I need to get that. A lot of these things we weren't educated on. And that's why I believe our organization continues to be essential today.
Absolutely.
To piggyback on that, you may or may not know that fair housing, the fair housing laws in the United States do not necessarily protect against sexual orientation or gender identity. There's only 27 states in the country that do allow protections for these two classes. Therefore, our organization, the Alliance, we advocate for equality, fair housing, and homeownership for all, not just the people in the community. And it is still pertinent today, especially with the growing generation of millennials that are now home buyers. Yes, we all tend to have one friend or a few friends that are in the community, and this organization allows you to be able to get that information out there for anyone to be able to promote home ownership and to be able to just educate people and just letting them know that, hey, everybody deserves the opportunity to have a home ownership.
So with that being said, what would you say is one of the biggest fair housing issues we're facing today? Like, what is something that you see in the marketplace?
Well, being in Miami for the past 12 years, I've realized that obviously it operates a little bit different.
Yeah.
And all four of us here, have a foundation of pretty much the same foundation as to why the organizations were created. I have not necessarily experienced any type of discrimination myself, but I know of other people that may or may not have been discriminated against, but just because of their belief that they're going to be discriminated against, they already foresee that that's going to happen. Therefore, it limits them and it hinders them and not just the home ownership process, but going out to even going to get a rental, going to go get or request a mortgage. So, I feel that it's very pertinent for us to be speaking about it today here in Miami and even at the national level, because we're all national, right? And even at an international level. So it's important for us to be able to just speak about it and educate people.
I can definitely add on to that. And I don't know if you guys have been watching the news lately. You're seeing about appraisals, people that are buying homes, people that are refinancing. My people are forced to take down the pictures of their homes so that they can get a true appraisal value. You guys have been watching the news, you guys have seen that this is now coming to light. But guess what? This was always happening. But what's happening is we're recording it, we're speaking about it, and that's what we need to continue doing as individuals. Continue to speak up, and that's what's happening. We need to ensure that everyone is being fair to people and that everyone are getting the same rights as every other person. And that's why we continue to be purpose.
Do you want to add on that? I know I already got you.
No, I think the most important thing is education, right? Like you're saying, documenting everything, sharing your story. And that's something that, especially with Aria, we're pushing people to share their story, because even in the Asian culture, we're very reserved. And we don't like to borrow money. So a lot of it's education, and talking about mortgage and how to borrow money to leverage and to buy a home. So a lot of it is education and just talking about it, right? Like
Testimony.
That's something that we're pushing.
So speaking of storytelling, Joanna, your thoughts on fire lovers?
So I've been on both sides. You received the letter and you received the letter. And I think, you know, it truly, is it allowed? I know technically it's not allowed. But I think it does make a difference. Because right now, you are coming into a market where like there's many offers, many of them are identical. So what I've been doing is kind of like a bio, like, hey, remember my client? And that kind of helped. So I would say it's not a love letter, but more like, hey, my client was a couple, you know, that was pregnant, they love this house, and that's kind of how we like, just to remember even the realtor. Because there have been, you know, cases where you went to the house, you and the realtor built a bond, and it got, you know, the identical offer, if you're buying from you. So.
What do you guys think of fire alarm homes?
So I actually haven't received any in Miami, and I haven't written any either. And I think that it's a little bit different in our market because everybody is so international, but it is very important to know your audience as well. So know that your buyer or seller the benefit of this. I think that's a great tool. I have had actually friends that bought properties on the West Coast that have utilized the love letter, and they've out deals that were, you know, hundreds of $1,000s more than theirs, and it really, I think it's a great tool to have. Yeah.
But now I can add on to that. But now though, with let's say for example, you get 20 offers and everyone's writing a love letter. Now it's no longer about the love letter; it's about who wrote the best paper, who wrote the best essay. So now, are you judging the buyer or are you judging the realtor composing it and putting it together? So I see that as something that may happen in the tenfold. We continue to allow it to happen, and now it's no longer about competing against the offer. It's about whose paper was longer. Now, does it go from 1 page to 4 pages to 2 pages? No.
So, with that being said, it's a crazy market. Let's transition a little bit into what's actually happening in the real estate market. What is the craziest offer you have seen in this market?
So I haven't seen crazy.
Okay.
I don't want to deal with crazy. I've heard of crazy. But you know, it's a very dedicated period, I think, for us as professionals, because we want to be responsible to our client and to the market and to the community that we're working with as well. So I don't, for example, ask my buyers to delay contingencies or over offer. I pretty much help them set a realistic expectation. You know, and if it's a property that's within the high medium range, it's going to be an extremely competitive market. So we go in there, argue with a position that this is going to be it, and what's your maximum, what's going to be your lowest, or what is it that you're willing to compromise on. But I've heard of crazy stuff, you know, maybe contingencies, inspection periods, we're asking prices $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. We're asking prices 10 offers. Like there's a showing, a property gets listed today, showings only on Friday, and by Saturday we'll respond to your offer. And I'm like, and this is like a $2 million property, you know? It's crazy. It's a crazy time. It's a fun time, but it's a crazy time. Sure.
It's definitely a smart time. Because I think now when we talk about building relationships and losing each other, it's music right now. Because it's offering me good, but if I have a rapport with this person in some form or fashion, I'm gonna know that hey, this person's gonna close. So guess what? I'm gonna tell the owner that even though we have multiple offers, I know Joanna, for example. I know that she closes deals and this file is gonna close. Because that's what really matters. You know, I had 17 offers on a property yesterday that I pursued to sell it, and one was $5,000 more. And I said, Mr. Seller, even though this offer is more, look at the terms of this one, and that's what it truly comes down to. So I've never advised any of my buyers to waive appraisal contingencies or even do any of that. I know it's a conversation we need to start having as far as education, but I don't think it's something that we need to be advising. You have to understand, at the end of the day, we are the advisors. So what happens is once they move in and this craziness is over, guess what? You made me pay too much. I paid too much for my house, and now how do you take that back? You know. So I believe you educate, just as you stated, you advise, and you allow the buyer to make the best decision he or she can possibly do.
Yeah. It's a little different. I mean, I agree with you. We have to educate our buyers, but if they want, if maybe it's an investor or you know they want that property, what are you going to do to help them get that property? And you just have to lay out, hey, if you want to waive contingencies, this is what you have to do. We have done that before. We've offered more than ask price, right? And that's the market that we live in.
Yeah.
To go back to the question, I wouldn't say necessarily offer, but I would be in the transaction, the previous two things I've seen. So I did have a seller represented. We did get the buyer to pay $50,000 above appraisal. So that's been like highest above. And then the other craziest thing is a contract that was in place in November. Buyer decided not to proceed. They're in contract right now for $400,000 more.
Wow.
So talk about like if the market of crazy stuff, like that's been probably my two craziest things I've seen. Regarding the advice for clients and stuff, I'm 100%, we are their real estate advisor, and we need to advise them, you know, this is the market we're in. If you want the house, this is my recommendation. So have I had clients that do different approaches? Yes, and I would tell them, look, clients like yourselves, if they really want the property, this is what I would recommend, or this is what they've done. I don't say this is what I recommend. I said, this is what they've done. So if it's, let's say, a $500,000 house, you know there's going to be a bidding war, well, if they are financing, I will ask the lender to please submit the entire file under underwriting, do everything, make sure they're approved, so that way, if they want to be as aggressive as possible, they come in with no financing concerns. So that means we're doing appraisal during their inspection period, and hopefully during that inspection period, like the clean file. I tell the realtor it's not contingent on financing, it's coming in as a cash, but they are financed. So that way, it's a completely no realtor to realtor, an appraiser is going to come to the house. So that would be like the most aggressive form, and it's their choice. Another option that we'll give them is, you know, they're cash buyers and the house needs the complete gut job, or the house is completely in. I go, if they're cash buyers, no inspection period, and then you get a lower price. So that's kind of been like another. So I'll give them alternatives, and then they pick the way they
best route.
Yeah, but I think I think we need to advise them, because it's telling them, hey, don't pay above appraisal. At the same time, like many of my deals are happening, they're having to put in language, we are willing to pay $10,000 above appraisal. So I just tell them what I'm seeing on both sides, and then they make the decision. Okay, we want to do this, and we don't want to. So then it's their decision. Yeah.
So with that being said, what would you guys say to a new agent who's coming into the market right now? What advice would you give a brand new agent?
Right.
Right.
No, I mean, I think that to have a really good rapport with your broker, you know, your broker is there for a reason. And if you're a new agent entering this market, and with all the hype and the buzz that's been going on, you know, because the media is obviously has us on the front lines, you know.
Yeah.
It is an attractive moment to be in real estate. We've been, for those of us that have been here for a while, we've been through these cycles before. We understand that it's a cycle. Just again, set realistic expectations. I'm the broker in my office, and every time I get a new agent or I'm interviewing, I let them know that it's a hot time to be in real estate. But there's so many other factors of the whole transaction and just being a professional in general that you need to be careful, because you can get burned out so quickly in this industry, especially in a time like this. So that would be one of the things that I would probably emphasize on. Just take your time and start within your tempo.
Yeah.
And piggyback on your broker or your team leader.
Right. So speaking of team, you have a great, huge, successful team. So what would you say to a brand new agent who wants to bring your team to this market?
So I would basically say it's being prepared, but you're not being prepared any different than you were maybe in 2008 when I got into the industry, or maybe in 2012, or maybe in 2015. You know, I believe these were the peaks in the market where we always were froze for a second and we said, hey, these are about to change. Let's start preparing ourselves. But guess what? It went the opposite, you know. Just as in March of 2020, we thought, hey, we're all out of jobs, the market's going to tank. And guess what? Some of us made the most money we've ever made in our lives. So it's just truly preparing them. But guess what? You're doing the same exact stuff that you're doing 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but you're just continuing to stay focused. And that's what a lot of times people come to the industry, they're not focused. So understand what your goals are. Stay laser focused, and I think you'll be successful out of this business. We're all doing the same thing at the end of the day. You know.
You guys want to add to that? We said it all.
I would say join a team. I think it's so important. Like, you know, I think the biggest thing realtors do when they first come in is that they're looking like who gives them the most money split-wise. And the most important thing is to learn. Like learn. Like shadow realtors, ask questions, like learn. Because the more you learn, the more you'll earn with time. Like, it makes you stronger. And like, you know, I've come across realtors that have been in this industry 30, 40 years, and they'll tell you, oh, this is the first time this ever happens to me. And it's true, because different things will happen throughout the career. So the more you can learn, and I think join a team, I think that's like what I would highly recommend.
to piggyback off of that, join a professional network like YPN, right? Or like any of these organizations here. Because really in real estate, I think the most important touch that you're missing with all the trainings and all that is that human touch, that human connection. Sharing stories, working with your broker, like just here in this room, we have so much energy and so many stories that we share and learn from each other that I think these organizations are important.
Absolutely. So when it comes to being successful, agents have a tendency of being like squirrel, right? Looking for the new shiny object that is going to make them successful. So I really wanted to ask you guys, what has been, one, your main source of business, and where did your last deal come from?
I would say my relationships. We do heavy marketing, but really my personal production, because even on the program, still, in sales, has been just my relationships. I've been fortunate enough to be here for over 10 years, and I went to do my master's program here. I've done a lot of my professional growth here, so it's been here locally. But definitely, I always say that you are your own best resource. So tap into your resources. And by resources, I mean the organizations, your friends, your colleagues, people that you're doing business with. Not necessarily real estate, your appraisers, for example, people that supplement your profession and your practice.
So what about you, Jeff? Main source of business, where'd your last deal come from?
I don't remember where my last deal came from. I was trying to think about it when the question was posed. I don't know. We do a lot of units, but I would say my main source of my business is definitely my database. That's number one, where people don't know what to do with their database, or your database is money. If they like you, they love you, and they'll give you business, and then if they won't give you business and they like you, you love you, and you're hanging out with them, you may want to reevaluate that. But also, I'm definitely a caller. Everyone knows that. I tap into the phones, and I think the phones definitely work. They still work to this day. Maybe what you're not doing is calling expires and physicals, but you're calling databases, or cold calling, sphere of influence calling, circle prospecting. But I think definitely getting a schedule and calling it definitely works.
What about you?
I think you guys said your network and your database, right? So I totally agree with that. So the last deal I have was actually a referral from the West Coast, and of course, Californians are coming down, and that was one of them. So through Aria, we connected, and that's what happened.
So 50% of my business comes from repeat and referral, and the other 50% comes from brand new online business. And my last closing on the drive here, I closed yesterday on a transaction that came about thanks to a previous client. So this previous client is a acquaintance of mine, social media friend. I posted an investment property on Instagram. He contacted me, we spoke, he put an offer, he bought the investment property, and around the same time he was closing, he called me and told me he had this friend with a lot of money and he wants to invest in properties and he wants to sell them. Please send him like a little rough draft of what's going on in real estate so he could share with him at lunch. So I was like, oh God, one of these. So I went and I was like, let me just give him like a little like report, a little summary of Miami real estate. And then so he goes to lunch with him and he goes, okay, great, he's interested. Can you show us property Monday? And I was like, oh God, okay, like I'm really like not wanting to do this. So I was like, okay, let me do it. The guy bought a property, like. So on Monday, I go and I pick 4 properties that I think would be good for flipping. I meet them. I meet him and I meet his friend, the investor. Investor puts a cash offer, no contingencies. We closed yesterday for $900,000. So one social media post led to a little over $1.2 million. So I guess that's how everything, one thing plays the next.
Yeah, I love it. So that actually ties perfectly into my next question, which is about social media, right? So I want to get your take, you guys, on how you think social media has affected our business, good and bad, and whether or not you think that the way real estate is portrayed on social media is an actual accurate portrayal of what we do and what it's like to be in real estate. What do you think?
Social media to me is still kind of like a gray area. I didn't grow up using social media. Clearly, I am a millennial, but I'm the first millennial. So, I still resist a lot of social media stuff. I don't like to post stuff. I'm aware that, for business, it's pretty much the number one vehicle at this time. And it does allow for the platform to give you that type of recognition and just exposure at a national or, anywhere level, honestly. So I think it's important, but I also think it's important for us to do it responsibly. You know, not all of us, or yes, we are all luxury agents, just like we are all investor agents, etc. I don't necessarily think that it's an actual portrayal of my practice, for example, because I can sell those properties, but I can also sell to, the general public, if you will. So I'm kind of biased, not biased, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like twofold on it. But, it is important. It's definitely important.
What do you think of social media? You think it's an accurate portrayal of what it's like?
I think it'll take over your life. Watch out.
Yeah, sure.
It definitely will. What happens is it ends up being a part of your day now because you have to ensure that you're tapping into these people at the right time. So now you're trying to understand your Google Analytics through your social media and the other platforms that you're using to make sure that you're posting at this time and posting at that time to ensure that you're hitting the best traffic, because you just never know where your next deal is going to come from. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I've gotten so much business from social media and just conversations that people that have tapped into me, and then you're just able to just have a conversation from one place to another place. But I believe you do have to limit yourself though, because you'll find yourself spending hours and hours and hours on there, and you're thinking that you're being productive, and at the end of the day, yeah, you liked everyone's posts, but what did you get done? So I think it's definitely something that you do it for business, you do it for attraction as well, because you don't want people to just see that you're a robot. You want them to see that you live a real life, but also you want to make sure that you limit yourself on there as well, because then you get condoned, and, yeah, exactly. And that's it.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I think it's so powerful, and I think that we only, most of us probably only utilize it a little bit. I think there's so much potential in it. And to answer the question, if it was accurate portrayal, of course not, right? We don't, at least I don't go into investment properties and film like the floor or anything like that. But you can take it and film it and say like, this is what I'm doing and showing and going about there and really just staying on top of mind. When people go through, their social media, they don't go specifically, oh, let me see what Bowie's doing today. They just go through and then they see it in their mind. They're not thinking about it actively. But when it's time to think of a realtor, right, to think of, someone for investment property or luxury properties, they think of you. And that's why it's so important to stay on top of it and try to do as much as you can. Even though it shouldn't take over your life. Like I know that sometimes you spend hours and hours scrolling, but definitely like your example is a perfect one.
The power of social media.
The power of social media.
Example.
Yeah, so I think we are in a relationship building business. That's how you get your database clients. And I think, people want to see that you're personal and you're human. I had a baby 7 months ago, and I could tell you like a ton of my clients, I don't have a big following on social media. I'm not the best in social media, but I am big about relationships. And I think when your clients see that you have a baby and, I just went on a trip to Arizona, and then they mention it on a call or they send you a little text, a DM on Instagram saying, oh my God, how beautiful. You just touched your client.
Yes.
Your client is telling you your baby is beautiful or what a beautiful trip you went on and what now? I'm going to expand on it. Yes, how are you doing? Or yes, this trip was amazing. I highly recommend it. You should definitely come visit. So you just did a touch point. That's a touch point with a client. So I think social media you should definitely do it. I don't go into depth with the analytics. I don't, again, I would say I'm not the best at it, but I highly recommend you post it. I think it's done amazing to show that in our business, this is a night weekend. This is a weekend business. This is like all the time working. Yeah. And I think it has done a great job portraying that. Because I think before that, people just thought real estate, this is the easiest job in the world. You just show properties, open the door. So I think when people are seeing that it's Friday at 7 o'clock at night and you guys are putting that you're doing a contract, or it's that, you just, I know you put a lot of like, oh, I'm with my kids and now I'm doing business. Like, I think it's actually opened the eyes to people like, wow, it actually is a very time consuming business, one. I think it's a great reminder for your whole entire sphere to see that you are in real estate, that you are active. No one wants to work with an unsuccessful person. Like, no one's going to go to the unsuccessful attorney. They don't want to work with an unsuccessful realtor. So them seeing your success, like share the listed, but share the sold. You know what I mean? Like, let them see your success, because like, it's not that you're bragging. It's that they see, oh, she's good. Like, I've had multiple clients ask me in the last few days, do you have the time to work with me? And I almost feel like, man, what am I doing that they're asking me this? Like, I'm not bad. And I'm like, yeah. I go, yes, I have the time to work with you. But for them, I'm like, I'm doing something that they're seeing that I might not have time. So, I don't know yet what it is, but I'm just pointing like to them. If I'm giving them the yes, I'm going to work with you. At least, we're building a rapport here. We're working together. So in essence, use social media. I think your sphere needs to see that you're active. I have gotten multiple clients through just doing little Instagram posts, and I would say I'm not good at this. But I have done little posts where you either just listed or I'm in a property and I think it's a good investment. And I'm like, look at this view, 300 grand. And then they reach out and they're like, I'm interested. And they bought it. So, or they, they're like, I have another property I want you to sell. Or I have my mom that wants to do. So I definitely 100% think be on it.
Great. I want to add on to that though.
Yeah.
You touched it, but I think also when you talk about your sphere, you could be motivating someone also that this business, you can go up and down in just like 20 minutes, So exactly. And you going to a closer, you showing a property, or you just doing something. Sometimes I ask people questions about different areas that they happen to be in because I'm currently working with a client or I'm trying to learn about an area. And just speaking to them, they're able to enlighten me, so I'm able to educate myself better and speak to the customer a lot better as well. But I think sometimes it helps people to just bounce back and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I'm doing something wrong and I need to be doing this, or maybe, wow, this person's doing this, I need to be doing this. So I think it's also a motivational piece as well as for everyone as well to ensure that, hey, we can keep pushing, we can make ourselves through this,
And colleagues to colleagues, like I learned so much thanks to all your posts too. You know what I mean? Like it's actually been like a very educational, I would say, of our business too. Like we learn from when you guys post things, and when I post things, everyone learns with each other. So
Absolutely. So with that being said, last question. I know my answer. What would be one thing that you would change about the real estate industry?
Skip me. Think about it.
One thing. So I'll say the problem and the solution. So I think the problem is there's too many. As you all know, there's a little over 50,000 realtors, and only 10% do the work full time. So that means there's a good chunk that are not educated on the process or everything. So I do think it needs to be that, like, if you are to get licensed, awesome, but you do need to have like the first 5 closings be with with another realtor. Like you can't do it by yourself. You need to have a cooperative realtor, and then within 2 years of the business, you need to have at least 5 transactions a year. Something to like at least put the hold. So I think that will help. Because I think the reputation in our industry is from the outsider is not very good, and I was very embarrassed when I first got licensed to say I was a realtor, because I thought it had a negative reputation. So I do think, and I am seeing it right now too with my clients, because if I'm working with a realtor that doesn't really know the steps, like I'm in litigation right now because of that. So like it sucks, not my fault, but my client now thinks these realtors are idiots. So it could have been avoided, is my point. So I think I would put more benchmark on like, if you're gonna get licensed, you have to work your first 5 transactions with a cooperative realtor, and within 2 years of the business, you have to have at least 5 transactions a year to remain active. And personally, I would raise the fee to make it way more.
Yeah.
I'm sure not everyone's gonna like that one, but I call it the 555. Make it 5 transactions, and $5,000. I'm obviously not the favorite vote here, but I support you.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. I would definitely talk about licensing and maybe the requirements to maintain your license. And definitely raise the fees. I mean, it is expensive as it is. A lot of people say that it is. I find it valuable because of everything that we have access to, especially with our local associations. So I would definitely, I would support you, yes. Run for office.
We're all in your campaign. What about you? One thing
I think it goes back to what they both said. It's the lack of education that definitely makes it impossible. I speak to agents, like for example, a lady texted me while I was standing back there, and in there it says when the tenant's lease is over, and I said, is this for investment or for own occupant? She says they're buying cash. I said, I understand that, but is it for investment or own occupant? She's like, for them to live in there. I said, but the lease doesn't expire until next year, and she says, oh, sorry, never mind. But if we would have simply read through the remarks that were written there, we would have figured that out, And what happens is sometimes we go out and we show properties, and then they're having a conversation with you, and now they look a little crazy in front of the agent, the buyers, And I think it's really, we gotta educate ourselves and train ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable for educating. Yes to the brokers, definitely. Yes to the team leaders. But I think as an individual, you want to seem as a professional. You want to seem like you know it all, you know? People are going to you, just like when you go to an attorney or you go to a doctor, you know? So I think we need to hold ourselves accountable for educating ourselves and saying, hey, I understand this. And if I don't understand it, say, yes, I do not know. I will get back to you. Or you go back and you get with your team leader, you get with your broker, you educate yourself. And a lot of us, we don't want to do that. We don't have the time. But guess what? When your check comes, we know exactly how to calculate that commission, you know? And that's all we care about. I've spoken to people before, and realtors go absent until the day of closing, and they're not involved. They have no idea what's going on. And it's kind of sad, and that's why we get the reputation that we get.
So it's safe to say we all agree that the entry benchmark should be raised.
Mhm.
Fees should be a little
Definitely.
bit more expensive. There should be a minimum of a certain number of production or, you know, actually participating in the field. So yeah, completely agree.
And a little thing we can all do right now to help each other is let's put like these statuses, let's update them.
Yes.
Because I think we're wasting so much time. Yeah, report them. Because we're wasting. How many times are you going to the first question? Is it available? Like,
Yes,
why do I
that is-
have to like call to ask if it's available? Like, I should be able to depend on the system. And if not, the system's broken. If it's, you know, oh, if I have to say it's under contract for 2 weeks when it's active. So report it, please report it. If not, we're ruining our own system. that we're working with.
It's not a bar dance, they're crazy. And
Well, yeah, because they look on Realtor.com or Zillow and they say it's still active, You know, 2 days later, 3 days later, it's still active. And then we have to go back and follow up and say, hey, like, please get back to me on this. Like, is it done? Is this still going on? And I think that was a big problem, which the association is addressing right now.
Yes.
But definitely, especially with rentals and sales, it's a mess. But I'm glad that they're doing something to address that.
Absolutely.
I think the integrity is extremely important as well. We take the code of ethics and we believe that we are following the right integrity lines, and sometimes we don't. And integrity is extremely important. You know, I remember one of my agents was working on a particular rental, and she was texting the agent, and the agent wasn't communicating with her. And guess what? The buyer went on her own through Zillow and communicated the agent. And she called me like a week later. She's like, I got the place. And I'm like, but the agent never was responding to this particular agent, you know what I mean? So integrity, I saw a post one time, it says, yeah, you're the top listing agent right now, but be kind to the buyer's agents that are out there, because tomorrow the tables can flip, you know? So we gotta be kind to each other and definitely ensure that we're holding to ourselves to standards, because we would hate for someone to do something to us that we don't like, especially after working so hard for a seller or for a buyer, you know?
Well, and text history is zero. I just texted when he said his number, and I had a text history with him, and I'm like, oh man, you know, like you're like, I hope it's not embarrassing. Like, I'm very good about responding, but I was like, you know, you never know. Like, so I would say be careful, because that text is there, and it's there not only with your relationship as peers, but it's there in the eyes of the freaking attorney that I just have to send everything to. So like, be very, very careful writing what you write. Because it's not only your reputation amongst your colleagues, we all play in the same sandbox, and you are going to see each other again way more than you're going to see that client again. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind, you know, what you write can be seen in the eyes of the court one day, and you're going to be embarrassed. So be very careful.
That's true, that's true.
You guys, thank you so much for everything, the value of this today.
Give up on my way.